Hello and welcome back to Nolan Financial Radio. My name is Chris McKinney from Nolan Financial Partners. If you'd like more information about what you hear during our show today, give us a call at 719-210-4242 or visit us online at nolanfinancialpartners.com. And while at our website, click on the radio page, check out our past shows, and you can subscribe to our program on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us with questions or set up a face-to-face or even a virtual meeting. Though in certain parts of the country it felt like a long time coming, spring has officially arrived. It means no more winter coats. And if you live in part of the country without harsh winters, spring is a time of renewed optimism.
Yes.
Optimism for baseball, optimism for everything. Summer is here. So while I was struck by a lot of the things that are going on with baseball and how that relates to retirement, we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about retirement. Okay.
You called the show, the title of today's show, Chris, is Financial Steps for Every Part of the Game. I thought you were going to hit us with this big, long baseball or sports analogy.
We wrote it up that way, but we're not doing it. It's just baseball. When I was a kid, my dad liked to watch baseball, and we'd sit and we'd watch baseball games, and they were so long.
Robin Williams has a bit. Robin Williams had a bit on baseball. It was pretty funny. It's like, it's too slow. He talked about his previous cocaine problem, and fortunately he, went through rehab, got sober. But in his Mork and Mindy days and stuff, he'd go, I'd try to go to a baseball game, and I'm like, it's too slow. It's too slow. I wanted to run down there on the field and speed it up. But yeah, watching it on TV can be painful. Going to a game is fun once in a while, especially some of the minor league teams. It's actually fun. They kind of have fun with it and joke around.
Right.
But yeah, and they've had some rule changes this year. But yeah, we're not going to go into that.
No.
And Chris, spring definitely gives me a bounce in my step. I just, I'm from Minnesota, so after a long winter. And here in Colorado, if we're used to a hard winter, we love spring and summer, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
It's starting to green up here in Colorado. We did have 36 hours of rain recently. And then
wow.
It was
Was it that long?
Rain,
36 hours. Wow.
It was 36 hours. It rained for 36 hours.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So, but then the bad part of spring comes, and it's the wind. So 35 windy. Gusts to 40 today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it'll dry out. It'll dry off some of that wet from the
rain. Everything is sopping, and people are having a hard time because their houses aren't used to having all this water, and so they're used to getting like a little drizzle and then stop. And I had 2 clients that had leaks with their houses.
Oh wow, really? That's
not used to this kind of water pressure.
Did they call you wanting to take money out of their retirement accounts to cover it?
Not
Hopefully,
yet.
Tell them no. That's for retirement. We don't touch that, right?
They're getting the estimates today. We'll see.
That's true. That's true. Hopefully, they have an emergency. Hopefully, they've listened to you and Tara, and they have emergency funds and other options.
Both of these clients have emergency funds. They are set up to handle these kind of problems.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, right? Financial steps for every part of the financial planning and retirement planning game. As we get closer and closer to retirement, there are things we need to know, and things that, let's say you're in that 7th inning stretch. Sorry to use a baseball analogy, but there are things you need to know, right?
Yeah, they're right, Tony. There's a lot of things you need to know, and there's some really great financial tips and advice that listeners may want to roll right into their own financial strategies that we're going to talk about today. So one of the biggest things is you need to have a personal vision of what your ideal retirement is. That is the biggest step you can take. Without a vision, without a target, you can't hit it, right?
Yeah. You have to have a purpose
You got to target it. Otherwise,
and
you're
a
not
plan.
have it. And what if, so who cares if you don't hit the bullseye? Maybe you hit the 50 counter, not the 100 counter.
Yeah.
Uh, but without that target, without that bullseye there, what are you aiming at? So you got to create the aim so that you know what you're trying to do.
Yeah, you have to really have a target in mind. Yeah,
Yeah,
and come up with that target date and what you're planning on in retirement, so you can financially plan for it now. And
right.
I assume that that's something you help. You have people
We
to come to you
we
that
do.
don't, and you say, "Hey, you got to figure this out," right?
What yeah. What are you gonna do with your retirement? What are your hobbies? What do you wanna work part-time? Do you get fulfillment from that? Um, when you leave your first career, maybe there's something you've always wanted to do. Maybe you wanna be a docent at a museum. Maybe you just wanna get involved with gardening. Um, is that working at a nursery part-time or just playing around in your backyard? So figure out what kind of things you want to do in retirement, so that you can meld that in with your financial plan, so you have the money for it, you have the time for it. You definitely have the time for it because you're retiring. Now, what are you going to do with your time? Figure out what you're going to do with your time. That will help define what your financial needs are.
Yeah, there you go. So, really narrow these things down, and I mean, you have to really look at everything. Traveling, is that what you want to
Yes.
do? That's a big part of it for a lot of people I know. And maybe your idea is, hey, I'm gonna buy an RV and travel the country, or I'm gonna do a
Yep.
round the world trip, or spend some time in Europe. You have to, if that's your goal, you have to plan for it, and you have to work with a financial advisor
Yeah.
who can help you achieve that goal. Otherwise, you're going to make mistakes that could be costly.
Right. And are you gonna travel around in a $500,000 RV, or are you gonna put a slide in the back of your truck? Um,
Yeah, big difference.
there's a huge difference in the cost of maintaining it, the insurance cost, and then obviously the purchasing of it. How are you going to do those purchases that best take advantage of your situation? You don't have that income stream anymore. Um, Therefore, your finances cannot weather storms like a purchase that wasn't planned for, right? So you can't just go out and say, plop down, your 800 credit score and go buy things anymore. It doesn't work that way. You have to figure out how you're going to purchase things based on what finances you have available. Um, that isn't to mean that you have to live on a budget. It means you have to have a spending plan.
Ah,
Okay.
yes, a spending plan. So that's another key step here. That's
Yes.
a key financial step, is having a spending plan, and you've talked about that
Right.
quite a bit. That's really important, isn't it?
It really is. That spending plan needs to pay a lot of close attention to those costs that we know are going to come up. Healthcare costs,
Oh,
travel
healthcare.
expenses, uh, future inflation. Don't forget about that. We've had inflation over the
Oh,
last 2 years, and it has really cost a lot of money from some people's financial plan that did not
yeah.
have that built into it. Now,
Right. If the last year's taught us anything, it's, hey, pay close
yeah,
attention to inflation,
that's right.
right?
Now, this past April was the lowest inflation month we've had in over 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. It
So
was
so
below 5%.
yeah, so things are getting better on that front,
Yeah.
uh, but that doesn't mean that, this is going to happen. Look at the '80s. I remember inflation in the '80s was really, a big drain on people's
I think it
finances.
got up to 14%.
Yeah,
It was
that's
pretty
right.
high at one point. I mean, it was way up there.
Right, and people don't think about it because there were so many other things going on in the '80s around finance. Because we had
Yeah.
the oil crash, we had the savings and loan scandals, we had all these other financial things going on, And
Iran Contra. I'm just throwing stuff out.
Iran Contra. Yeah, the Reagan years kept things interesting. And so we had so many things going on. We failed to notice that our buying power was eroding so fast.
Yeah.
So it's something that we need to make sure we have in there. We have a little bit of a slush, as if you will, some margin, so that if we do hit that, then we have some financial instruments inside our portfolio that will account for that inflation. Okay, so all your money should not be in one place or another. You need to have things that will take into account those kind of changes.
Yeah. That's so true. I mean, it's funny you mentioned the 80s. Didn't Reagan have a movie with a monkey? Didn't he?
Yeah, chimp.
Yeah, what was that movie? I was trying to think of it.
Didn't they go to Washington in the movie too?
Yeah.
It was a precursor for his administration. I can't remember the name of the monkey though. So
yeah,
somebody will have to call in and help us out there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it. He did a lot of movies. I don't know what that one was.
Yeah.
I'll think of it. Anyway,
he's a real personable guy. He was interesting.
Oh guy. Yeah. Oh, Bedtime for Bonzo.
I was thinking Bonzo, but I didn't want to say.
Yeah, Bedtime for Bonzo.
It's such a clownish name.
Starring
right?
Ronald Reagan and a monkey. Chimpanzee.
Yep.
All right. Well, I don't know why that's what I thought of when I thought of the 80s. I don't know. I kind of grew up. That was over my high school years, 80s.
Mine too.
I'm dating myself, but
high school and college.
Yeah, we're dating ourselves now. But
yes, we are.
you've given some good tips. If our listeners want to put a spending plan in place, they need help figuring out, hey, how am I going to make the retirement of my dreams happen? Am I even going to be able to retire? How could I possibly achieve this? Sometimes you'd be surprised. There are ways to make this happen. You need a plan, though. So how do they get a hold of you?
So they can reach us at 719-210-4242. Give us a call there. We'll set up a complimentary consultation so you can get started on planning that financial retirement. You can go out to our website. There's some good resources there. You can contact us through our website. It's nolanfinancialpartners.com. But probably the easiest way is to give us a call at 719-210-4242.
All right. And let's keep rolling with Nolan Financial Radio. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore. I'm here with our host, Chris McKinney. Now, Chris, I know you and Tara work really hard with your clients to make sure they have a solid plan in place, and not rely on rules of thumb. There are a lot of rules of thumb. Sometimes people think financial steps. What are the financial steps I can take to have a plan? Now, there's the 4% rule and the 60-40 rule. Maybe you could talk about those. Now, the 60-40 rule, that worked well for a number of years, but as last year proved, that went out the window.
Right. So the 60-40 rule is 60 in stuff that's at risk, and then 40% is like things like bonds that aren't as risky. Well, guess what happened last year? Bonds were down 12% last year.
Yeah.
So
the bonds in the market were down almost the same amount, which is almost never happens, but it happens.
Almost never happened because usually money, when the market goes down, money moves into bonds, so bonds go up.
Right.
And so that's what typically happens. Well, that's not what's happening. What we think where the money is moving to venture capital, because that's the big play after COVID is getting into companies that are growing.
Yeah.
And that aren't on the open market yet. So a lot of the money is going in those directions, and it stayed away from bonds, stayed away from the exchanges.
And really, that's an after effect. I mean, we blame COVID on everything, but it had something to do with it.
It had something to do with it
But
because,
usually, sometimes rules of thumb are good, but everybody's situation is different, so don't rely
right.
totally on them. But talk to us about the 4% rule. Sometimes people rely
Yeah.
on that.
There's a guy named Bergen. He came up with the 4% rule back in the late 80s, and he reproved it through the 90s a little bit. But the idea is that if you take 4% off of your retirement funds each year, that withdrawal will make it so that your portfolio will have a 95% chance that the money will last for 30 years. So while that rule is certainly not a guarantee, it may help you kind of give you an idea
A
of how
starting
much I
point.
can draw from my capital. And so
Sure.
if you use that as a rule, say you have $1 million, so the day you retire, you have $1 million. That means I can take $40,000 a year off that $1 million, and then that will last me 30 years. The thing about that is that 4%, if the million grows a little bit, then you have a little more. But if it comes down, then you don't have as much. So that's kind of the challenge with the
You're gonna
4%
have you're
rule.
gonna have years where you don't have quite as much, which is why you
Exactly.
need money in other things.
That's right.
Besides, especially if that money is at risk, like the stock market, and you have a year like 2022, that 4% isn't going to be nearly as much as it was in 2021
So
or 2018.
that's right. And so
Yeah.
that's one of the things we're helping our clients with right now, because their market money is down. We've transitioned them to moving their things that are outside the market to pay for their day-to-day life and supplement whatever other incomes they have. And so that we do not want to spend capital that is in a compromised position, like things that are in the market right now, because they're all down 15 to 20%.
Right. That's kind of crazy. So you've got to be working with a financial services professional, or you could
It's
make some costly mistakes, and you need to know which steps to take.
That's
And
right.
understanding the 4% rule is good. We've talked about a lot of these steps on previous shows. Listeners can go back and listen, but we should continue here. I think we've been covering some really good steps that people are going to want to take as they get closer, as we said, that seventh or eighth inning of their career. You've got to use that as an inspiration to really hone in on a specific plan for retirement.
That's right.
So,
Now is the time
yeah,
to get that done.
yep,
But yeah, we're going to shift gears though, and we're going to talk a little bit about getting started. Just a little
yep,
bit. We don't have a lot of
okay,
time left in today's show, but
sure.
I do have some clients that are just starting out.
Ah,
And what they really need to focus on is getting that savings habit started. Where's
sure.
the best place to start that? Probably with a 401k at work, right? So get that started. If your work doesn't offer a 401k, then you need to open up an individual retirement account, an individual Roth or an individual IRA, something like that, and just start somewhere. Start with $100 a month, and then every time you get a raise, make sure you give your retirement self a raise as well. Okay. Start that savings habit. If you can start that savings habit when you're at that first job, that's a really great thing to do. And
Yeah.
and you'll get that in your mindset, and it'll be great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's a good attitude to have, and get the mindset started. Make sure you're saving enough, and as you get older, you can even use catch-up contributions or catch-up provisions to save more, right?
That's right. There's catch ups, so that when you start making more, you can save more, and so you can take advantage of those, and then meet with that financial advisor, because there's places that you can save money, um, that you can still have access to the money that are outside of a retirement plan,
Oh,
so that you can still use it maybe to buy that first house or do those kind of things. And so do things that make let's see, what is it? Wealthy people do things hard to make their life easy. Poor
hmm.
people do easy things to make their life hard. Let's
Ah,
make let's 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 make your life easy.
yeah,
Not okay. Let's not
yeah.
do easy things to make your life hard.
I like that. I like that. I'd never heard it put that way. Well,
Yeah,
obviously, if you're just starting out, like I tell my kids, make sure you're contributing to your 401k and putting enough in to get that match. And you've always
that's right.
harped on that. You and Tara always drive that home with me. You gotta put at least enough in to get your full match from the company
That's right.
if they offer that, because that's free money, right?
That's free money. But you have to have both. You have to have the savings going into a retirement plan, and then you need to have personal savings. And so you have to have a little bit of both, but get that matching, because nothing, no return beats uh a 50% or 100% matching. Nothing. So get the matching.
Yeah. Yeah, get the match. Good advice. So, what's something else that people starting out or anywhere on this journey for every part of the game, what do we need to know? What's another good step to take?
Well, so you're just starting your financial life, that you're taking control of it because you've got that first job, you're working, you know, monitor your cash flow, figure out where your money's going, track your spending and see where your money is going, and see if that's where you want it to go. Is that on purpose, or is it not on purpose? Have any subscriptions to media outlets do you have? Well, maybe you don't need all those all at the same time. How many? What are you paying for you don't intend to pay for? What are you not paying for that you do intend to pay for? So get a handle on those things early on, and that will set you up for having that good savings muscle, right? If you know where your money's going. The second thing, along this lines, is paying down debt. So if you've got some credit card debt or some student loans, make sure that you've got a plan to get those knocked out. Um, uh, you don't need to pay early on the student loans, but you need to pay early on the credit card debt. Get that knocked out first. Kind of figure out which debts in what order need to be paid, and then start knocking those things down. There's a guy on this same radio network, that talks about the snowball method, and that works for some people. Um, that starts with the smallest debt to largest debt. I like to order them in the uh, highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate. That's how I like to do it for my clients. Either way you choose is the right
So,
way to do it, and
right,
just
but
do
some
it.
people need that. Some people need that motivation to pay off
Sure.
that earlier or that smaller amount first.
That's right.
And then that motivates them, and they can use that money to pay off the next one. But I agree with you. I'm the same way. Pay off the one with, like, get rid of that high interest rate.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
credit card debt's the worst.
Oh, by far. Yeah.
You can never get ahead of it paying the minimum. You got to attack those things.
Yeah, you do. Yep.
Where where
Exactly.
where student debt is kind of, it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Student debt is that's tough. So, but we mentioned it earlier. I would imagine one big step here is an emergency fund, right?
Yes.
Establishing that
Right. And so
in case your roof does leak or you need a new washing machine, right?
that's right. Or your car has a mechanical issue, and you're gonna pay for it because you're gonna got to get to work. You're gonna pay for that washing machine because you got to wash your clothes so you can have clean clothes to go to work. So you're gonna pay for it, and so if you have savings set aside, to account for those expenses, then you're ahead. That's how you get ahead. That's how you stay away from paying the 15
Right.
to 20% on a credit card for those purchases.
Yeah, that's huge. Obviously, that's important. And how much should you have in an emergency fund? Like, a lot of people are probably saying, well, it's easy to say have an emergency fund. How much do I need to build up in this cash fund that's just sitting in a bank account?
Yeah, well, it kind of depends. If you're a renter and you have a very modest car, maybe it's just $1,000. But if you own a home and you've got a nicer vehicle, maybe it needs to be $3,000. At some point, you're going to start to feel a number that's comfortable for you, and maybe it's $10,000. But you set it so that you can create that emergency fund in about 6 months. Okay. So you
Right.
start that first job, and then if you should be able to create that emergency fund in about 6 months. And so whatever you can create in 6 months, that's your starter emergency fund, and you leave that money alone. And then you can have fun with the rest of your money. If you
Yeah,
have that money in a
absolutely.
savings account and you're okay for a few months on your bills, that's such a liberating feeling, right? So, maybe it's 3 months rent, right? So about, say maybe $2,500 to know that money is there so you can go play with the money that you got. That's a great feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a good feeling. I like that feeling. So, anything else you want to add? Where else should we be aware? What else do we need to be aware of? Probably work with a financial advisor is the final tip,
Get
right?
get a team early, right?
Yeah.
So get your team going, figure out how you're going to, do your taxes each year before April 15th. If you're going to use a CPA, you're going to use a tax preparer, or you're going to do it online with TurboTax, figure that part out. When you're doing your taxes, start to understand where your money is going for that year. Make sure you know what that is, and then go set up that meeting with your a financial advisor not long after that, so that all this stuff is fresh in my mind about where my money went. I want some of my money to go into my future self. I want it to go into maybe a future plan to do something. A financial planner can help you do not just retirement planning, but also all your life goals. How I'm going to get from being 25 to being a 40-year-old with $1 million house and nice cars in the driveway and money for my kids' college and all those things. A financial advisor can help you with all those steps along the way.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we're out of time for today's show, but great episode, Chris. A great topic. Financial steps along the way, along your path toward the goal of retirement, having enough money for a comfortable retirement. And listeners, take care. That does it for today's episode of Financially. Hang on. Did you want to give the phone number again before we go?
I would like to give the phone
Okay,
number
yeah, I
again
should.
to our
I didn't mean to
listeners.
throw us off there. All right, what is that phone number, Chris?
So the phone number that you can reach us at is 719-210-4242. Give us a call today, and we'll set up that complimentary consultation for you. We've got some appointments set aside for people that call off the radio show, so we've made time for you. Give us a call, 719-210-4242. Go out to our website and check us out. NolanFinancialPartners.com has some great resources. You can listen to some of our past shows. Come check us out at our website.
All right, sounds good, Chris. And that does it for today's episode of Nolan Financial Radio with our host, Chris McKinney.
Join us again soon for another episode of Nolan Financial Radio. Take care, and we'll talk to you again.